Hello everyone, my name is Áine, I'm 18 and I'm from Limerick. I was brought up in a Catholic family, and ever since I was young I had a particular fascination with the faith because I was a very curious child. I was one of those children who pestered their parents with the word why about 100 times a day. I used to ask a lot of questions about the Nativity story and about the Easter story, and I always had a simple childlike faith. I always had the image that God listened to me, because everyone I had come across when I was younger, like priests and religious, wanted to listen to me and were always very friendly. I remember when I was 4, I used to pray in front of the Sacred Heart picture for a special sister. And not long after that, my little sister Sarah was born, and we were told she had Down syndrome. She has honestly been one of the biggest miracles in my life, because she shows me every day what it's like to have a simple yet deep faith. She brings out the best in my family, and she also does a great impression of me throwing a tantrum. God definitely answered my prayer in a beautiful way, and from a young age, I knew God wanted to hear and listen to me. However, when I was in 6th class, I realised that everything isn't flowers and daisies in life, when I started to experience verbal bullying. I remember when I used to hear the comments of, "You're not pretty enough," or "No boy will ever like you," and that childlike faith I had in a God who listened and cared slowly started to slip away. And I started to believe those lies. When I went into secondary school, I would say I carried some of these lies with me, and there was a point where I wondered about my faith and why I even went to Mass. I'd say I'd lost confidence in God. When I was in second year, Roisin Blackwell, who gave her testimony here last week, ended up moving to my school. Not long after she came to my school, she invited me to a Youth 1000 retreat. However, I remember going home to my mom and saying that I wouldn't go to it because I thought they were all holy joes. When I was 14, I started to experience some anxiety and I'd feel very low. And during these times, I'd resorted to praying the rosary, probably because of what I had seen at home. But I still didn't want to make a commitment like going to a faith camp, because I had the view of faith as being restricting and boring. However, when my friend talked about these retreats, she talked about all the friends she had at them, all the laughs she had, and eventually I got too curious, so I decided to go. I remember being excited the morning of the retreat, but also nervous, because I didn't know what to expect. When I walked into the room where everyone was, I saw so much joy on the young people's faces. They were all sitting around listening to one of the Franciscan friars giving a talk, and I will never forget the repeated laughter that surrounded the room. It was a totally different atmosphere than what I had experienced at school. After the talk, we had Mass, and I had never experienced a Mass where there was youthful music and all the young people were so invested in it. That night, there was a big music session and everyone was chatting and having a laugh, and I met so many people at that retreat who I'm still friends with to this day. I knew when I left there, I'd experienced something different, and that difference was that there was real faith, and I realised that the young people saw their faith as a relationship with God, which I had never seen before. I think the Lord brought Roisin into my life as an example of faith, so that I could come back to my faith. I genuinely believe I was meant to go to that retreat, because about 3 weeks after, my mom was diagnosed with cancer, and my granny, who had lived with us for 10 years, passed away. All of a sudden, I was completely stuck at a point of grief and worry. I was tempted to be extremely angry with God, but instead I decided to turn to Him for consolation. In that moment, I realised that the cross can draw us closer to God, or it can drive us away. During those following few months, I decided that even in the rough times I would turn to God, and I did this a lot through the rosary. Trust me, it wasn't always well-composed prayers. It was more like a plea for help and a conversation with God. But I truly believe my faith got me through those times and made me a stronger person. I had definitely turned to God more as a friend. Despite all the odds, my mom was healed from cancer, and after that, I remember my faith being much more important to me, but I still had a lot of questions about the beliefs and teachings of the church. And that's where the Franciscan friars of the renewal come into the story. I remember the day my mom was driving into my Ross, and I was in the front of the car. All I could see was goats on the road and lads on horses all over the place, and I asked Mum where the house was, and I remember her saying to me, We just have to drive to the very back of the estate, turn right at the burned down shop, and they're the last house in the corner on the right. And at that stage, I nearly broke the handle off the door with fear. All that aside, I eventually got to know the friars more, and I started going on retreats with them. When I started to go on retreats with them, I still had so many questions, but they really helped me learn a lot about my faith. I learned so much about forgiveness from them, and not long after that, I had an amazing experience at a Youth 2000 retreat. It was in 2019 at a healing service during that retreat, and I remember the priest coming around with the Blessed Sacrament. As I looked into the Blessed Sacrament, I felt an unbelievable peace. And when I closed my eyes, I saw all the people who had hurt me and an image of Jesus with them. In that moment, I realised how much he loved those people, even if I struggled with loving them. Since then, I've been able to find immense peace and forgiveness because I realised that Jesus gives us and wants to give us the grace to forgive, and it has helped me grow my faith a lot. I would say one of the main reasons I ended up coming here was that I visited here on one of my first retreats with the friars. I remember walking in here for the first time and falling in love with the place. I can honestly say being here has been such a blessing. Trying to make conversation at 7:30 in the morning with 17 other people when you're not exactly a morning person. Sharing a bedroom with 3 others with limited wardrobe space. And trying not to put the kitchen on fire when you're cooking for the whole community has been a challenge. However, it has been such a gift. I'm learning to grow in so many ways I never imagined. I've made the most amazing friends, and I've laughed to the point where I can't stand up. And I can't wait to see all the rest of the blessings that this year brings. Thanks so much for listening to my testimony, and I will be sure to keep you in my prayers. God bless.